Good morning, my name is Irene and I'm an illustration artist and art teacher from the Netherlands, and I live in the UK. Today I'm going to do a live drawing just in real time, no speeding up anywhere, and I'm just going to make a little illustration and talk to you about what I've been up to recently, about running my art classes online, how I got started with that and how I'm finding it so far. So before I get started, I'm going to make an illustration of a child jumping with a skipping rope, and maybe do a little background as well. And I'm going to use markers for this and color pencils. I bought some new Faber Castell color pencils the other day. I've not used them much, I've used them a little bit, but I've not used them lots, and I have some these Cos Art markers as well that I will use for today. I only have maybe an hour's time to do this, maybe less. So let's dive straight in it and start with a sketch. I'm going to make a sketch in blue today. So let's have a little think. So this child is jumping, maybe here. So this would be the skipping rope. I'm not using any references today, just my imagination. So I have not decided what this little person is going to look like. So I'm literally just making it up. So this could all go terribly wrong, or maybe I'll end up with something that I really like. So there we go. It's always a little bit tricky when you're talking and filming at the same time. These color pencils are really, really soft. I need to get used to them a little bit. So I think this person is going to have long hair. I like the idea of long hair because that can really have a lot of movement whilst jumping on the rope. So there we go. And so maybe curly hair, skipping rope is going here. Yeah, I start to have a little bit of an idea of this. It's a little bit uncomfortable for me to not use any references. I tend to use at least some references of some kind or another. But I do think it's a really good exercise to sometimes just dive in to your drawing and just see what comes out if you just let your imagination take over and you just have fun with it. So that's what I'm doing today. Here we go. Cool. Well, let's start with some markers. I have been a full-time illustrator for over 2 years now. Time goes very, very fast, I think. And I'm absolutely loving it. And I started actually by running art classes with my business, Makings and Musings. I started running art classes before I did any illustration commissions. For some reason, I didn't really feel confident enough to think that my work could be, sold commercially or be actually good for for anything, like for professional illustrating. For some reason it was quite daunting to me. So I started running art classes, mindful art classes, really calm, very focused for beginners. And take up was quite well. And from there it sort of grew to a full-time running art classes business, all in person at the time. I used to go to this amazing pub in Stratford in London where I used to teach my classes in person. And it was absolutely amazing. I could use the room upstairs there, and without that I would never have gotten where I am now. And when lockdown hit, when the pandemic sort of hit in 2000, I couldn't run my classes in person anymore, and I had to bring everything online. And I did that very fast. So within the span of a few weeks, I used my camera. I had a really not a very good digital camera that I managed to use to film with. And I made a setup, and over Zoom I started to run my classes online. And if I see those first videos, the recordings of those classes, it made me chuckle a little bit because the quality was quite poorly. It's just quite fun to watch. I was very proud of them at the time, but now things have definitely moved on from that. I have a much better camera now. I have a much better computer that can process the higher quality, and I edit the videos, and just the whole process has moved on quite far from how it was back then in early 2000s. But still, I started to run my classes all in over the internet, all online. And so let me focus on the face for a little bit, because this doesn't have to be a super precise drawing, but there we go. She's going to have quite a big ear, I think, but that's okay. Where was I? Oh yes, I started to run all my classes online, and before I knew it, I had people starting all the way from America, from France, from Switzerland, from the Netherlands, from England. And my business has moved on from being something that was really super local and small to something that is very online and international. And it's been really quite a roller coaster ride how things have moved on since then. I have also started my work as an illustrator much more, and I've now illustrated 4 children's books. Most of them are going to be published early next year. So once I can tell a little bit more, once they are being published, I will definitely make a video about it or share something on social media, or however I can share this information with you. And I have made illustrations for different sort of packaging products, for people's website. Lots of personal commissions. People approach me to do portraits and pet portraits and individual portraits and things like that. I don't really too many of those anymore, just because they're usually quite a lot of work, and more commercial projects are just a little bit better from me usually. I like to work with businesses with green initiatives, and really that do like something positive in the world. And I love working with businesses with sustainability sort of intake or something like that. So at some point I decided to focus a little bit more on those than on personal commissions. But I do take personal commissions once in a while, not super often, like baby cards or wedding invite or things like that. If the right thing comes along and I have time, I do them on occasions. But not very often anymore. So let's put in the rope first. I think I'll use a little bit of black for that. I don't know if I have black in this set. So here. There we go. Actually, just getting a little bit of an idea. This piece of paper is fairly small, so I only have that much scope to add things in and make changes. I think I want it to be a little bit more vibrant, so maybe I started to run all my classes and workshops online, and the benefit for me is that I can just do it from home, which is really great, especially in these current sort of times. It also means I don't have to carry all my art materials everywhere. I can just log in from home, get everything ready, run a class, and then yeah, it just makes the whole process much easier for me. So that's a part that I really like about it. And I was a little bit worried it'd be hard to connect with people online the same way as you can do in person, because when you're running an art class in person, you can walk around and give encouragement and see what people are making. So I was worried that that would be something that was hard to find in over Zoom, but actually it is just yeah, I've not really struggled with that. That was a worry that was a little bit unfounded, because a lot of people join my art classes on a regular basis and we get to know each other really well, and people are welcome to have a little chat throughout the class here and there. It tends to be very calm, but it's yeah, it works really well, and I feel that for me it is a good place to connect with everyone, and people can share what they've made at the end if they wish, but they don't have to. So I love a pair of colourful dungarees. So you can see I'm mostly using marker at this stage. Making sure that I'm sharp. So the classes have really moved on from how they were originally, and now I have all this filming equipment. I've started to do YouTube videos such as this one, running classes on Skillshare. And yeah, just because I have the equipment now anyway, it has really opened up a whole sort of world of different possibilities, of different ways of how to run classes and events online. lighter streaks in her hair. The whole picture just reads a little bit too dark. And it was really strange for me at first to hear my own voice on recordings. You can really get used to it. I don't really mind it anymore. I used to be really annoyed by my own accent, but now, well, it's just part of me. And actually, people's feedback has usually been really positive. They seem to quite like my accent, and if they don't, I'm sure they can find a teacher that sounds different from me, and that's fine. Everyone needs to find someone that suits them, right? So I'm just adding my color pencil over the marker. Marker and color pencil are a really great combination because it means that they can, the marker dries really fast and you can draw over it quite quickly. And you can draw with color pencil over paint, but you always have to wait for it to dry. And with marker, the whole process is just really quite fast and fun because of that. So, let me see if I have a little marker or pen. I want it to look happy, but it's so small, it's a little bit hard to get in the amount of detail that I was looking for. It doesn't look quite as sweet as I hoped, but it's okay, we're not finished yet. So let's give her tops, some stripes. I like the idea of that. So I illustrate a lot in watercolors and in pen and markers. I use charcoal a lot. I actually like every type of medium. I work digital as well. And sometimes using so many different mediums can be a little bit of a challenge because I do feel like I have my own art style. It took a little bit of time to develop, but I have found my art style now, I think. But because every medium has its own sort of qualities and its own look, it can be hard sometimes to recognize my art style as my own, especially when you first get started. Sometimes things moved around a little bit, so that's okay. It just takes a little bit of time for these things to develop, and you can't expect everything to be there overnight. I think I might just make the background yellow. I want it to be a little bit more colorful. A bit more of a happy picture. So. And I especially love drawing people, animals, and fantasy creatures. But I also like drawing landscapes, but more as backgrounds usually. I'm not really a landscape artist, let's say, but I do like to add like a background or a landscape into my artwork. I do make some spot illustrations at times, but quite often there is a bit of background in my pictures. And if you look at Instagram, you'll see that as well, that it's not very often an empty, like a white background with just a spot illustration. There's usually something going on in the background. So and I also like a little bit of magic in my illustrations. The world is grey enough as it is. A little bit of colour and magic and mystery is something that I really enjoy creating. So maybe in life, but also in my art. So I did not have a sort of strict plan when I set out on this illustration. I did not know it was going to be nighttime. Only just decided then, but I think it looks quite cool. I'm happy with it. This happens sometimes when you have no reference whatsoever. The picture can go in a slightly different direction than what you anticipated originally. So, do you ever make drawings without a reference? It's a really good challenge sometimes, because we have this whole library of ideas and things in our minds that we could use and tap into, and sometimes we're so used to tapping into things that are outside us that we forget that we have all this information that we can just use when we want to use it. All these memories and ideas and all these objects that you know full well what they look like. You don't have to always look at a picture to remember what, a phone or a car or a person, or in this case a skipping rope. The more often you do it, the easier it gets, and your pictures might be a little bit less perfect because of it, and that's fine. I'm sure that this would be a much more realistic artwork if I used a reference, but it's okay if it is not super realistic, because every time you do something like this, you learn from it and you challenge yourself in new ways. So, and one of my sort of New Year's resolutions was to focus a bit more on slower social media or slower forms of communication mostly. So I decided to focus on my YouTube channel more, where I can create longer content and things a little bit more in depth. I don't think I'll put any background music under this either, because I like I don't really like the free music that you can use for videos anyway. So perhaps there won't be any music at all. So I'm just making sure I'm sharp. Yeah, I think I am. The skipping rope could be a little bit white here around the edge. So you can see these pencils, they actually cover the marker quite well. They're not coverage is quite good. And they're actually meant for drawing on black paper, so the darker colors of the marker work quite well for them. So I love creating some stars. You'll see there's always little stars in a lot of my drawings. I love a moon in a nighttime feeling. I think there's something so magical about being up late and being outside and seeing the moon. I am not much of an evening person, ironically, but I do love seeing the moon. Flowers, I think I might be almost finished. This is definitely something I could carry on with quite long if I wished, but so I was trying to make this a quite short artwork. I think the moon needs to have some of these craters, so let's see if I can create some lines on here. So, it's a bit hard to see in video, but and I think I need to add a little bit of shadows on her clothes as well. Here there'll be a little bit of shadow between the legs, at least behind the one leg. So slower communication. I think there's a lot of fast communication in the world nowadays. And for me, mindfulness and calmness and being in the moment are very important. So I'm trying to incorporate that in my business and in different parts of my life. And I would like to sort of focus on that a little bit more. So I decided to do a newsletter once a month where I write a little bit more about what I'm up to, a little bit more in depth. I used to do a newsletter and my aim was to send it out once a week, and it was just way too often. I didn't really have time for it, and it was always rushed, and it was just a sort of list of what classes I had upcoming and stuff like that. And I decided I wanted to make a newsletter that I would actually enjoy reading. So it is filled with art tips, with materials that I'm using, with maybe some book reviews or creative inspiration that I've come across. I will share a bit about behind the scenes of Makings and Musings and what I'm up to, that sort of things. Really like the idea of focusing a little bit more on actual things that give me energy instead of, trying to reach as many people as possible on social media. Focus more on giving value and making things that I enjoy making, such as this picture. So, what am I missing? I think it actually looks quite fun already. Maybe I need to go in with my marker a little bit more. Maybe the skipping rope needs to be a little bit thicker. I could use one of my thicker markers for that, but this one works just fine. So. See if I can make her smile a little bit more. Some floating hairs. I always wished I had curly hair when I was younger. I love curly hair. I think often people that I know who have curly hair like to have straight hair, so it goes a bit two ways, doesn't it? So. I think I'm almost finished. Let's take the tape off and have a look. It's just a quick illustration. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, it was fun. Actually, I might have a white marker. Let's see if I have it somewhere at hand. So I'm just quickly trying to see if it is working. Sometimes they dry out a little bit if you might use them for a while. So because this white marker is a little bit more opaque than the pencil, and perhaps I can add in a few highlights that stand out a bit more. It is a little bit old. Seems to be working okay. The marker doesn't work very well anymore. You can see the color sort of gets soaked into the into the paper a little bit. Let's take the paper off. I love a tape removal. So quite enjoyed it. By no means perfect, but quite fun. And I hope you enjoyed this little chat and this little get-together. So yeah, if you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to my channel. You can find me also on makingsandmusings.com and on Instagram at makingsandmusings.illustration. So yeah, make sure you be in touch. I would love to hear from you, and yeah, I'll see you around. Bye!